as you give up control of your life. To, I mean, we walk around in our lives. Do we all know what the highest love is? Do you feel like confident that without the guidance of spiritual beings on the earth, that you would know what the highest love in the universe is, or how to lift your mind up to the highest thing, or what you should do every day to connect to the most sacred, powerful energies and heal at the same time, what food to eat, and what kind of things to think, and how life should be arranged, and what went wrong, and why is there pain in the world, and all these things that can stimulate every little level of the human organism. And then all of a sudden, something that brings it together very simply, boom. And then it's like all those questions are answered. Oh, and it's all been answered for you. And all you have to do is tap your belly every day, say a meditation, go for a walk, eat well, maybe eat some herbs from Dr. Zhang, and one day you're going to be in a holographic micro village living in the asshole of the world, which Dr. Zhang calls Iraq. That's right. One of the many statements of this really modest Qigong teacher is that Iraq is the colon of the earth, that the Iraqi people are basically pieces of shit. Oh, yes. It's interesting. I thought it was the United States myself, but, how does he know these things? Does he define why that knowledge is? Is there scientific proof that Iraq is a colon? What about Iran? Is that part of the colon? What about Israel? Is he anti-Semitic? Is there a little bit of the colon? Is a little bit of the feces get out into Israel? Is the Middle East then the intestines? Where is the anal tube of the world? If Iraq is the colon, would the anal tube be Dr. Zhang's third eye? Maybe Dr. Zhang's third eye is the anal tube of the world. I don't have any proof of that. Maybe Dr. Zhang is the anus of the earth. He could be, right? Hey, Dr. Zhang, are you the anus of the earth? I don't have any proof of that, but it could be. Would Felicity believe it if he told her? Probably. She'd keep that to herself, though, I think. The secret ring of power. Right? And I've seen and heard her, I've been present when she was talking to one of her students who had been sexually assaulted by another one of her male students. And I listened to her on the phone for an hour and a half, changing the subject, using that positive energy, making it about the person, but not making it about the violence. And giving them the love that they need, to the point that they just went away. Right? She placated them. She gave them what they wanted. It'd be nice if I could do that. Anytime someone was really mad at me for sexually assaulting them, I could just send them lots of love. Oh, it's okay. Lots of love and love and love and love. And they'd be like, you know what? I did get to have sex, Landon. And that always is more positive. And then I don't have to worry about being raped anymore. Thank you so much. And what rape is, of course, would come up in this discussion. I'd say, well, Landon, what is rape? And you look at a pattern of control right up until the last time I was in that Qigong school. And these two students asked me, they said, Landon or James, why are you leaving? And this, leaving the island, leaving the school, ostensibly. And Felicity had asked me to leave. I had experienced violence, dislocating shoulder, sexual violence in the home shared by her. And one of the people there, Rudy Hexter, had come into the house and sexually assaulted me in front of some guests that I had who were also actually quite sick themselves. And again, Felicity used her heart energy to make it all better. I mean, this guy admitted to me that he had raped women in his life and gang raped women. He had a daughter with sexually predatory issues, whom I was very familiar with on the island, and she was sexually abusing her boyfriend and the father, a very good friend of mine, and the father of her child, if not the child themselves. Felicity was friends with another student who was in my house who was sexually abusing her three-year-old child with another older woman connected to the family, and doing this in front of Felicity and sexually harassing me in front of Felicity, and literally no response from this woman. I actually went off the premises after that with Felicity and spent an hour or two with her in a quiet place. And Felicity at no point showed any qualms whatsoever. And she's very proud of the fact that after doing the Golden Bell and whatnot, that certain things just don't bother her. Things presumably that shouldn't bother anyone. And one of them is watching a 3-month-old child or a 3-year-old child being sexually assaulted, along with a 35 or 38-year-old man in his own home, by the way. These are students of hers and instructors who come into the home and now sexually assault me in front of her. Students who come up to me at the school sexually assault me. Instructors that sit down with me at restaurants in public and sexually assault me. So you see the pattern of behavior here. And the incident with Rosalie could have actually been a very positive experience, because if someone is distressed enough to sexually harass someone, you don't have to say to them, hey, you sexually harassed me. You just have to say, hey, what's up? And this is not the way we do things. If you have an issue, you can come to me. There was a reason why she didn't come to Felicity. And that would be an interesting part of the analysis. Felicity did make it clear to me later on, by the way, that she was afraid of this woman, that this woman made her incredibly anxious. She came up to me one day and told me she was having a panic attack after going to this woman's house. Right? Interesting, right? So these are a lot of people who don't seem to have a lot of control of themselves. Now, while Felicity is placating rape victims in her school, she's also telling her students that she's not a psychologist, and that although the school itself stimulates physical energy that could lead to lots of changes and the need to take a break and maybe even emotional processing, that she's not interested in talking to you about that, which is pretty important considering what goes on in the school, that you don't talk to her about things. So this is not someone who's saying, hey, you can talk to me. This is not someone saying, hey, I'm qualified to deal with some of the issues involved with stimulating the sex energy of, say, middle-aged women who might have been raped when they were a child, or anyone coming in off the school, while there are also children in the school. I mean, Dr. Zhang is a man of the world. Felicity has lived in India. She's studied under transcendental meditators for 20 years. She's a woman of experience and a woman of the world. Surely you understand and appreciate the logic and the ethics of providing some kind of ameliorative, some kind of supporting intelligence when you're stimulating people's sex energy and telling them that they're going to heal from all of their life issues, or at least letting them choose to believe that if they so wish, let's say, which is another sort of tactic of cults, just saying enough and thinking, wow, that's really simple and clear, so that you make all those assumptions by yourself. Fortunately or not, I live with her, so I could hear more of the gobbledygook that went behind it, like that Dr. John controls demons, like Felicity. And a demon can be seen as like a pain-oriented personality complex that lives in the mind, like shock, for instance, in human beings, that can be led, and often is in various industrial and personal ways, to commit to lower its inhibitions and conduct itself in such a way that it wouldn't normally do so, and remain uninhibited in terms of any of the results or the body language or any evident impact upon other human beings. At that point, of course, Felicity and Qong would say, goodbye, you need to leave, which is basically what they did to me. So when these two students asked me, why are you going? Immediately, and this is a pattern of control, Felicity answered the question for me. They were literally addressing it to an adult man, right, who was their friend, and she answered the question for me. A pretty big question. Why are you leaving an island where you've lived the last 7 years of your life? Okay. And these are friends of mine, and we're alone in this room. And Felicity answers the question for me. For me. She says, oh, he's going back to connect to his family. Not untrue. Why did she need to say that, though? Was she doing that for my behalf? Was I in some kind of stress and unable to answer that question? And why would she defend me at this point, and not from the stress of being sexually harassed by multiple members of her school, often in front of her, unbothered by seeing a man and a child being sexually assaulted by two women and her, but yet needs to protect me from this difficult question as to why I'm simply moving? You see what I mean? It's very perplexing. If you start looking at the criminal level of what's going on, which is control. The idea of sitting down with me after complaining of harassment and suggesting I would go to the leader of the school with a case of harassment, that she sat down with me and said, you project things on people, James, and then you attack them. Okay, I hear what you're saying. And literally no qualification. There was no discussion after that. She simply got up and walked away. I mean, have you ever heard something like that? She had a member of her school, Brett Holland, sit down with me who'd never made eye contact, never said hello to me, no matter how many times he met me, just literally hated my guts for some reason. I have no idea why, but you know when someone dislikes you. And sat down, looked at me while he was having a meeting with Felicity, looked at me and said, "You're not in your body." Okay. No idea what that meant, other than it didn't mean something good, right? It's alcoholism. There's something not good about you, but really, I'm really fucked up in my head right now. And Felicity's sitting there and saying nothing. This is a person whom I've already complained to about being harassed in the school and has no desire to prevent this from happening, but in fact has even encouraged it in order to protect herself now from the victim. You see how she's backing herself into a corner, right? But nobody's looking. I mean, she's going to get away with it all right, because now I'm leaving the school and I'm leaving the island. She's done. On top of which, not only is she rid of me, but she got me or accepted my offer because I had learned to serve her. It was the only way I was dealing with the sexual abuse, right? Which is the same reason people go into a cult, is that by doing something positive, right, she convinced me she was part of this really positive world of love. And so I offered to pack up all of her belongings and at my expense and that of my father to get a van and then to take it to my mother's house and store it in her garage indefinitely, which was a large truck worth of possessions, and it took me several weeks to pack everything up. Felicity arrived at her old cabin where she had come back and in this pattern of aggression had come back to the cabin to visit the other female that was now there, and had exercised psychological dominance over me in the house, physically and verbally. I won't go into details, but this is to me one of the most clear signs of psychopathy. To come into a home that now belongs to someone else who's complained of sexual assault and to exercise physical and territorial dominance in the house, right, sets up the later abuse that takes place. So it gives you an idea of the mindset of this person when she's not being super positive and full of unconditional love for all of her clients, at least the people who are paying her money, and helping her fulfill her lifelong dream of being someone and walking on the path to the top of the mountain where Dr. Zhang says, the view is all the same. Just like communism, right? That's what I think about mountains. When I go there, it's all about the view always being the same. It's all the same, man. It's all the same for everyone. Yeah? So what is Dr. Zhang seeing, presumably at the top of the mountain, that's so similar? It's all the same. Wow. What an interesting thought. So at the top of peace and highest love and health, and we get there, and I'll be looking at Dr. Zhang like, you're right, man. It looks the same to me as it does to you. Everyone else who's ever lived for a billion years, it all looks the same at the top of the mountain. Where is this mountain that everything looks the same? You know, Felicity had an out-of-body experience where she was taken into a UFO. This is part of the psychopathology. Her brother also has had UFO encounters of a decidedly more negative nature. He was on the phone one night while he was having this schizophrenic, delusional encounter, and they told her that, you know, there are many paths to enlightenment, but they all go to the same place, It's very important. They all go to the same place. The view is the same. The view is the same. You don't immediately have problems with that statement, do you? The view is the same. The same as Dr. Zhang's view? The same as my view? The same as your view? Do we all have to have the same view? And why do we have to get to the top of this mountain anyway? I mean, what if I was born on the top of the mountain? What if standing on the earth is pretty much the top of heaven and heaven's below us? Did you know that people used to think that heaven was underneath the earth? What if this earth is the top of heaven? What if there is no cosmic and we're just sitting at the top right now? You don't know that, do you? Does Dr. Zhang know that? So he knows the top of the mountain. He knows what it's like. It's like communist China. Everything's the same up there. You know, you'll all see things the same way that he does. Don't worry, you'll get there one day. He's an expert on sex, right? He can come into people's dreams. He came into my dreams, right? Came into my dreams in a very personal way. Okay, he's a psycho. He's a psycho. While I was still there. And he keeps an eye on people like Felicity. when he subjected her to near death through a close acquaintance of his, and she was tortured by her own students. What a wonderful school, hey, when your own students torture you. And Felicity told me in great detail that this happened. And so one of Dr. Zhang's first and highest disciples, trained by Dr. Zhang, got a bunch of her own students to try to kill her. Analyzed her blood, showed that she was almost dead. Dr. Zhang said that he was like a father figure to her, floating around and protecting her and keeping her energy up the entire time because he was there for her. And then told her that it was really her fault because these psychopathic people were really just a reflection of her, not a reflection of Dr. Zhang. Dr. Zhang was just a victim in all this. He was the hero that kept everyone okay after he subjected a number of his paying clients to what amounts to a psychopathic homicidal maniac and take no accountability of his own. Isn't that, what a nice guy, eh? This guy who goes up to the astral plane. And it's very important that the temples that he goes to get his knowledge, so he knows how to tell people how to blow ping pong balls around in the right possible way so that your gonads will help you live longer. And it's very important that these temples are protected by female spirits because his main disciples are all female and that they're so strong that they almost kill him. But he manages to stay alive to get knowledge because really, let's face it, knowledge needs to be protected by powerful female spirits on the astral plane. Otherwise, how would we know anything? Oh, thank you, Dr. Zhang. You're always going to the farthest reaches of the universe for me. And yet, I'm surprised you only have 10 schools. I'm surprised all of America isn't listening to you and your system for higher potential. Did you know that Dr. Zhang has spoken to the president? Did you know that he's spoken at the UN and that they would have killed him, except if he had told them too much information, because black vans came to his house. But he has all the information in his beautiful Chinese brain. So don't you worry, Dr. Zhang's not going anywhere. He's keeping his students safe from those people out there, he says, right? And all the hellish things going on around you. He protects you with his unconditional love of traditional Jingwei Golden Shield Qigong. He can also teleport, apparently. You know, people like this have contact what is some people call Enochian magic. You know, and it goes along with the whole, you know, interpreting the, you know, the acupuncture and crying and Amma makes people cry. And they interpret this as like, well, this is all real then, and this is doing something for me. And it, you know, whereas a lot of, you know, true healing from serious things like family alcoholism basically take your entire life. I mean, you're going to go in and out of shock the rest of your life. I mean, that's any clinically sound person who's honest will tell you that. And it doesn't have to be the end of the world, but I mean, shock is an animal. It doesn't go away. You know, you damage, like the body is a very resilient thing. The flip side of shock, and the reason why people ignore it, is that different aspects of shock or psychosis or even psychopathy are an immune response to trauma to protect the sort of core mind, the core seat of judgment. In this way, you can still find the improvement of core health and physical destiny on the earth, but you can't do it by ignoring shock. You know, the very things that grow up in people that make them prone to abnormal behavior and violence are there to protect them, and they often think that they're protecting you as well by doing these things to you, or by then teaching you how to think about them. So when I said to Felicity that, you know, that was a rape the first time we had sex, she was ready to tell me, oh, no, that's not a rape, you know, you initiated everything and that type of thing. But this is a person that after having sex contact with me the first time, knowing that she wouldn't be able to, as she admitted to, as I would probably soon join the school in any capacity, even if I went to a demo, right? Accusing me and fantasizing and suffering from a psychotic delusion, a psychotic lapse the next day, that I had sex with 2 teenagers, which I knew, and she was jealous of them. Think about that in your mind. If you've ever had normal sex with someone, if the day after they're accusing you of having sex with teenagers. It's not uncommon, in fact, for children of sexual abuse to associate sex with abuse and with rape. But in But what she didn't realize is that she was raping me. This is not a person who should be having sex with anyone. And Dr. Zhang should know that. This is not a being who should be having sexual contact with anyone, really. I mean, and that would be fine. It'd be fine, Felicity, to not have sex. You don't have to have sex. This is someone who's never had sex. This is someone who doesn't know how to have sex and whose body is basically frozen, whose emotional body connected to this area of the body is frozen. And it's reasons why, female friends of hers like Stephanie, the ND, have food control issues and other control-related issues. Women biologically have a license to kill. Men have a license to sacrifice themselves to women. And so cults generally need women for them to function. And Dr. Zhang has intelligently surrounded himself by powerful female psychopaths whom have their own special thing called the bridge, which isn't advertised on the website, which he can do for women and women's issues. And you have no idea, he does some sermon, you have no idea what the fuck he's done. There's no scientific evidence of it. Teresa herself has said that she got one of her vertebrae realigned because ancient Nephilim changed the human vertebrae system so that we couldn't achieve full enlightenment. And all this fucking mumbo jumbo that you see surrounding this world of pattern sexual abuse, essentially, while these people attempt to sincerely, albeit, help humanity and as the website declares in a fairly religious sense, heal yourself and heal others. So Felicity has had residual Enochian magic happen to her. She's touched people with issues and issues that have suddenly gone away and had friends basically lose friends because of it, because it's creepy, right? What does this person want from me? If someone came up to me and just touched me and something went away, I'd be like, what do you want from me? There's a natural fear. That's not good witchcraft. That's black female witchcraft. Right. That's someone, Felicity, who's been around some pretty dark beings most of her life, starting as a young girl, put on a lot of weight, became big boned, in her 20s and 30s, and lives with chronic anxiety and depression, as do most of her family. And that's the most credible thing about her, just the honest, lumpy person that she is. But these systems, like Chinese medicine, acupuncture, they're all bunk. They're just bunk, and they just keep people in a dependent state. There's never, I've lived on salt spring communities with tons of acupuncture, homeo, psychics, you name it. Nobody's ever better. These fucking people that lead these things, they die of cancer at the age of 50, for fuck's sake. They're not doing anything. Whether it's sounds and healing crystals and fucking aromatherapy and shoving this up your ass and whatever it is. I mean, you're better off getting colon therapy than all these things combined. And even then, it's all about environment, relationships, and lifestyle. Everything. You can never just... It's the whole thing. It's your habitat, how your habitat is to you, how your habitat has been to you. Because chances are, the more violent your habitat or environment has been to you, it probably still is. And you, in fact, became particularly sensitized to that fact. And so it becomes more and more heroic an act, in the sense of the heroic act actually being an act of usually excessive morbidity that brings death to oneself or others, through the measures of whatever attending religious philosophy or compulsion or rationalization. The more one has to deny it, the harder it is, because once you're touched by abuse, it kind of opens you up to darker things in the world. You see that human beings can do some pretty violent things. My mother, when she drinks, can sexually assault me. And that's just what they do. It's just, once someone has learned to lower their inhibitions. My mom was raped when she was 5. That lowered her inhibitions. It forced her to accommodate something that no child ever should. And her assailant is still alive, and she doesn't say a bad word about him. She treats him like her second daddy, right? Right? And she's 73 years old. She doesn't have complete and utter devotion to him, but she protects him. And he has... And I've listened to them on the phone. He has mental control of her. He treats her like a little girl, right? And she responds to that. He knows how to control people. He knows how to talk to them. He knows how to talk to children and control them, right? This is something people pick up as they become more demonic. And Dr. Zhang knows how to control these demons. And he's admitted that. He's admitted that most of his work is a placebo. And he's said all kinds of kooky things to Felicity to convince her of his power and notoriety. And he's looked through walls and seen her and opened up her mind. They can bring about, when I was living with her, I had, lucid dreams about absolute love or this, that, or the other. And in this realm, it's not uncommon for people to have, euphoric insights from their masters and loving moments. And you hold on to that, right? It's like, oh, but, you may never have it happen to you again. And it tells you that, you're on the right path and you're obviously a good energy and you're doing the right thing. Who doesn't want to have positive euphoric experiences, like if you have a dream and your master makes you come in your pants, you think, well, okay, I must be doing the right thing. So, but these are typical experiences around this level of black magic. It induces these types of euphoria, which can give you a very good idea, if you want to draw something honest about it, how much people are really looking for relief from their suffering and looking for love. That much is true. And so everyone's importing that into it. It's like, hey, you deserve your Qigong, you might say. You deserve your unconditional love. You deserve to be on a path to happiness where you can stand at the mountain with Dr. Zhang. And I've stood on a mountain with Felicity, and I don't think we'll ever see the same way. I don't think we'll see the same thing. I don't think she even thinks she's raped anybody. I think she'll just put on a happy face the rest of her life and never think about what she did. And may not be able to, quite credibly. But that doesn't mean I shouldn't warn people about her. You should never go to Felicity's business. You should never do business with her. You should never bring your children to her or any school that she's a part of, or that of Dr. Zhang or any of their associates. Absolutely not. You shouldn't buy shoes off of Brett Holland, much less get Qigong from him or let him touch you. I don't want to be in the same room as these people. I don't want to be in the same city as these people. Being around them is sick and insidious. I saw so much harm to men, whether it's her friend Kirsty, who wanted to move into a cabin that had one bedroom and that I hadn't even moved into yet, stupidly enough, wanted to live there. And I said, emphatically, no. I didn't qualify my response. I said, no, I don't want this person to be in this apartment. And Felicity had a lot of trouble accepting my answer and sat me down and gave one of her first super rationalizations that used the word you and said something about me and who I am. So basically, you can say no to anything you want to. If somebody asks you, there's a reason why she's asking me, right? Because it requires my permission, as I agreed to rent in someone's apartment and sleep in the living room, to have another person there who's a female, by the way, who I already know has sexually predatory issues, okay? And is a sick woman. She killed her husband within a year. She and her female associates. The guy was dead. He was a perfectly healthy Tibetan. He was fucking dead. Heart attack. Her fucking accomplices were building fucking death milkshakes at his fucking wake. Plowing fucking fruit juices, which are just pure fucking fructose. They fucking killed him. Right? A pure fucking sugar diet leads to heart attacks. It leads to depression. It leads to stroke. It's an awful thing to do to your body. Right? He was basically living off of fruit juice. He was living off of fructose. For fucking how long? And he died. He fucking died trying to be what these women wanted him to be in their fucked up world because they think they're helping people. Right? They're at his wake thinking that they're helping, running a 20 decibel fucking fruit juicer. And saying, hey, do you want to help us? And it's like, wah. Imagine being at someone's wake. Wah, wah, wah. I mean, these are insane women. They're patently insane. Right? Women have a license to kill. Men have a natural license to sacrifice themselves to women. If that weren't the case, we couldn't even live together right now because women in the world are very deadly in their thinking. Not because even that you want to be so concerned with that all women are going to hurt you, but that the world itself is using female-oriented black magic. The powers of yin, essentially. And so the world is yin poisoned. And I won't get into that just yet because it gets into the politics of gender and medicine and stuff like that. But this is what I do for a living. I write about this and I study these things. And you can do that. I don't even need to look at books. So every day is a book to me. So maybe that's enough for the time being, flitting around about this thing, Felicity Kelly, and Jingwei Golden Shield Qigong, and Dr. Zhang and the Austin Healing Center. And I talked to this nice old lady when I called them earlier this year, and I said, Felicity Kelly raped me, and Dr. Zhang almost killed her. And she said, well, all I know is that Dr. Zhang helps people. And I said, really, I think that Dr. Zhang probably gets people to think things about him that aren't necessarily true. And we left it at that. And she wasn't a bad person. She's just working reception in a place that she thinks is about helping people. And she has no idea. I said, have you heard of primal therapy? And she said, no. I said, yeah, he doesn't seem to be very proud of it. He gives it to his disciples to advertise on their websites. And I guess he gets residuals. Dr. Zhang gets a lot of things from his students. In fact, you might be surprised how much work they do for him for free. And then he has this thing called sealing that he spread to different instructors. One of them actually was a known rapist named Michael. Another was Felicity. You wonder how many of them have sexually assaulted someone in their life, quite innocently, perhaps, But when someone doesn't know boundaries, they just don't know boundaries, and they're crazy. And this person shouldn't be having sex with anyone. But and he gives them all this sealing capacity. So if you go into Qigong, right? I did Qigong 13 years ago for maybe 2 months, and I still have the same level of development in my abdomen as when I left, and I never even finished the training, and I never had any sealing. It's stupid, like everything else. It's made up. It's like people who sell health and diet supplements that have green tea extract. Oriental medicine is basically green tea extract. That's all it fucking is, and apparently it solves everything. Ginkgo and ginseng and green tea extract is like, oh, you're done. And it doesn't mean that Chinese herbal lore doesn't have something to offer, but take it with a grain of salt. I mean, none of these claims are ever scientifically founded, and you can't find a single person really who's ever been cured of anything. The Qigong advertises itself as something that's going to basically cure you of spinal bifida and increase your bone density. I made up the bifida part, but that it's going to cure and strengthen your bone density. I'm like, show me the science, motherfucker, and I'll touch my fucking self every day with a couple of fucking sandbags and some mung beans and some fucking medicine, which is basically alcohol with some herbs that you're paying $15 a bottle for, $150 a month for maybe 2 fucking hours of instruction, another $150 with your iFit 150. Pretty soon you've probably got these high-income, middle-class people who have regrets and they have pain in their life, paying $200, $300, $400 a month and all these schools. And Dr. Zhang is collecting all this. The instructors are renting all the establishments and all the studios, taking care of all of that like independent contractors, and sending him residuals. In fact, the payments go right to the school, and they go right to Dr. Zhang, and then he gives them something. So they're doing all the work, and he gets the money for free because he's the master. He's a